It was the year 2537, and humanity had reached far beyond the bounds of the Milky Way, inhabiting numerous systems across the galaxy. Earth, now a revered and ancient seat of civilization, served as the capital of the human interstellar confederation. With technological marvels that allowed instantaneous communication across light years and faster-than-light travel, humans considered themselves the masters of space. On the outer edges of the Andromeda Galaxy, a research station designated Zeta 16 orbited a young, volatile star. This station was a hub for scientific discovery, pushing the boundaries of what was known about stellar evolution. However, a routine study had turned into a nightmare scenario. The star they were studying had begun to show signs of unexpected, violent activity, potentially catastrophic not only for the station, but for the nearby inhabited planets. Dr. Elena Voss, the station's lead astrophysicist, stared at the holographic displays showing the star's erratic behavior. Her brow furrowed in concentration, she adjusted the parameters of the simulation in an attempt to predict the star's next flare. Despite the advanced algorithms and the quantum computational power at her disposal, the star's behavior eluded clear prediction. "Elena, you need to see this," came a voice from behind. It was Mikhail, her second in command, looking as pale as the artificial light bathing the lab. "What is it?" Elena turned, her eyes momentarily blinking to adjust to the change in focus. "It's the star. The latest readings. They're off the charts. I think we're in over our heads here." Mikhail's tone was unusually grave, his usual jovial demeanor gone. He handed her a data pad showing a series of escalating energy readings. Elena's heart skipped a beat. This isn't possible," she murmured, scrolling through the graphs. "At this rate, it could go nova." Before she could finish, the station shook violently, a deep, resonating thud echoing through the corridors. Alarms blared, red lights flashing in tandem with the urgent wails of the warning system. "We need to evacuate," Mikhail said, gripping the edge of the workstation as another tremor rocked the station. Elena nodded, snapping into action. "Send out the distress signal. Full spectrum, emergency channel. Make it priority 1, and get everyone to the escape pods." Mikhail hurried off, his steps quick and sure. Elena took a deep breath and tapped into the station's communication system. Her fingers flew over the holographic interface, composing the message. "To any available ship or station within range, this is Research Station Zeta 16 in the Andromeda sector. We are in immediate danger from an unstable stellar object. Requesting immediate evacuation assistance. This is a code-red distress situation. Please respond." She sent the message into the void, hoping against all odds for a quick response. Minutes felt like hours as the crew assembled at the escape pods. The star outside flared angrily, its light casting an eerie glow through the viewports. Just as Mikhail returned to her side, confirming the last of the crew were accounted for, a reply came through the comms. "Zeta 16, this is the HMS Valiant responding to your distress call. We are on an intercept course. ETA 15 minutes. Hold tight. We're coming for you." Relief washed over Elena, though her mind was still racing. 15 minutes. Could they hold out that long? As they prepared to board the pods, a final massive quake shook the station. Systems failed, lights flickered, and for a moment, everything seemed to hang in the balance. Then, darkness enveloped them. In the void of space, the HMS Valiant sliced through the cosmos with the urgency of a lifesaver hurtling towards a drowning swimmer. Captain Anne Mallory, a veteran of the border conflicts with the Andromedan mercantile fleets, gripped the console of her command bridge, her eyes locked on the telemetry streaming in from Zeta 16. "Time to intercept," she barked, her voice a mix of steel and concern. "Less than 12 minutes, Captain," replied Lieutenant Hargrove, his fingers dancing across his own console, plotting the most expedient course through the star's increasingly volatile ejecta. The Valiant was one of the fleet's newest cruisers, equipped with advanced defensive systems and a hull reinforced with carbon titanium weave, capable of withstanding significant stellar turbulence. Yet as the star's activity increased, even Mallory felt the gnawing edge of doubt. Back on Zeta 16, Elena and her crew huddled in the dimly lit confines of the escape pod bay. The power was flickering, life support systems straining against the energy drains caused by the star's erratic pulses. Her hand hovered over the launch controls, the decision weighing heavily on her. Launch too soon, and they'd be adrift with limited control. Wait too long, and they might not escape the star's lethal rage. Mikhail approached her, his face shadowed, but his resolve clear. "We trust you, Elena. You've got us this far." Elena nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. Just then, the communication system crackled to life again. "Zeta 16, this is Valiant. We're advancing your position. Prepare for immediate extraction upon our arrival. Be ready to move fast." Elena relayed the instructions, her voice steady. "Everyone suit up and secure yourselves. We're going to make a break for it the moment Valiant is in range." On board the Valiant, Mallory watched as the distance closed. "Shields to maximum. Prepare the docking clamps and brace for potential impact," she instructed, her gaze never leaving the forward screens. The Valiant shuddered as it entered the outer reaches of the star's influence, its shields flickering under the bombardment of solar flares and magnetic storms. Inside, the crew held their breath, each one aware that the timing of their rescue attempt was as crucial as its execution. As they approached, a larger-than-expected solar flare erupted, sending a wave of charged particles and electromagnetic energy surging towards both the station and the cruiser. "Now or never," Mallory muttered, keying the intercom. "All hands, brace for impact. Engineering, give me everything you've got." The cruiser surged forward, its engines glowing hotly as it pushed through the cosmic tumult. On Zeta 16, Elena gave the signal, and the pods were launched, hurtling towards the small safety offered by the Valiant's open bay. With a skilled hand and an eye on every variable, Mallory maneuvered the Valiant into position, its docking bay aligning with the trajectory of the escape pods. The cruiser's arms reached out, magnetic clamps locking onto the pods as they drifted into the bay. As the last pod was secured, the bay doors closed with a thud, sealing off the chaos outside. Mallory let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. "Good work, everyone. Let's get our guests aboard and out of those cans. Med team, stand by." Elena's pod was the first to open, and as the hatch swung up, she stepped out into the Valiant's rescue bay, Mikhail right behind her. Her first steps were shaky, the gravity of the cruiser disorienting after the weightlessness of the pod. Captain Mallory approached, extending a hand. "Welcome aboard, Dr. Voss. I wish it were under better circumstances." "Thank you, Captain," Elena replied, her voice firm despite the ordeal. "Your timing was impeccable." As the rest of the crew disembarked, Mallory and Elena turned to watch the star through the safety of the cruiser's viewports, its surface roiling like a sea in storm. "We're not clear yet," Mallory said, her voice low. "But we'll get you home." Elena nodded, her eyes reflecting the star's turbulent light, aware that their escape was just the beginning. As the Valiant pulled away from the tempestuous star, Captain Mallory maintained a vigilant watch over the ship's systems, ensuring they were out of immediate danger. The research crew from Zeta 16 had been ushered into the medical bay, their physical states examined while their psychological resilience was quietly assessed by the ship's counselor. Despite their ordeal, the spirit of the crew remained unbroken, their eyes occasionally flicking to the screens displaying the now distant star. In the ship's conference room, Elena and Mallory convened alongside key officers to strategize their next steps. The walls of the room were lined with digital maps of the galaxy, various points blinking like distant stars. The air was charged, thick with the weight of decisions that needed to be made swiftly. "We need to report this incident to the Galactic Council immediately," Elena insisted, her voice firm. "The behavior of that star was unlike anything we've documented. If it's a sign of things to come, other systems might be at risk." Mallory nodded, her expression grave. "I agree. We'll make for the nearest relay station. From there we can transmit your data with the encryption protocols necessary to reach the Council securely." Lieutenant Hargrove piped up. "There's also the matter of the data core from Zeta 16. It contains all the raw data and research we salvaged from the station. It could give us some insights into what happened." Elena looked towards Mikhail, who held a portable data storage unit. "We managed to download everything before the systems went down. It's all here." The captain turned her attention to the tech team. "I want that data decrypted and ready for analysis by the time we reach the relay station. Any anomalies, Any detail, no matter how small, could be crucial. As the ship hurtled through space, the technical team worked tirelessly, decrypting the data Elena's team had gathered. Screens flickered with complex graphs and streams of code as the data began to reveal its secrets. Elena, despite her exhaustion, stood by, watching every update like a hawk. Hours later, a breakthrough came. One of the junior analysts, a bright young officer named Ensign Rowe, called out, "Dr. Voss, Captain, you need to see this. We've identified a pattern in the solar flares leading up to the instability. It's not random. There's a repeating sequence." Everyone in the room crowded around Rowe's console. The data showed a clear, cyclic modulation in the star's energy output. Something unnatural, orchestrated. "It looks almost like a signal," Mikhail suggested, leaning closer. Elena's mind raced. A signal implied intention, a purpose behind the flares. But whose purpose? And to what end? "We need to consider the possibility of an unknown sentient force at work," Mallory said thoughtfully. "This might not just be a natural stellar event." The implications of such a discovery were vast and unsettling. Contact with another sentient species had always been a theoretical, but to encounter one through such a catastrophic medium was unprecedented. Elena looked between the crew, her resolve hardening. "We need to trace the origin of this modulation. If there's someone or something out there using stars as tools, we need to find out why." Mallory nodded in agreement. "Set course for the origin point of these emissions. It's time we learned exactly what we're dealing with." The Valiant's engines roared as they set a new course, pushing deeper into the unknown reaches of space, where the answers awaited them, hidden among the stars. As the ship surged forward, Elena felt a mix of dread and anticipation. This was no longer just about survival. It was about confronting the unknown realities of their universe. As the Valiant continued its journey through the void, the tension among the crew grew palpable. Every sensor and monitor on the ship was dialed to its maximum, scanning the cosmos for the faintest clue that might shed light on the mysterious signal emanating from the star. The bridge was silent except for the soft beeping of consoles and the low hum of the ship's engines. Captain Mallory stood at the forefront, her gaze fixed on the vast expanse of space displayed on the main screen. The data from Zeta 16's last moments had been analyzed and reanalyzed, revealing layers of complexity in the so-called natural phenomenon that had almost claimed their lives. Dr. Elena Voss spent hours with the ship's chief science officer, poring over every piece of the puzzle. "Look at this frequency spike," Elena pointed out on the screen, her finger tracing the jagged line of a graph. "It doesn't align with any known natural stellar behavior. This was manufactured, and my guess is it was meant to be a beacon." "A beacon?" the science officer queried, skepticism lacing his tone. "Yes, possibly a distress signal or a marker of some sort. It's too structured to be random." On the other side of the ship, in a quiet corner of the crew mess, Mikhail and a few other rescued scientists discussed the broader implications of their findings. "If we're right about this," Mikhail said, his voice low, "we're not just dealing with unknown physics, but potentially with a new form of life, something capable of manipulating stars." The conversation was interrupted by a sudden lurch of the ship. Instantly, alarms blared, red lights flashing across the deck. "All hands brace for impact!" Captain Mallory's voice echoed through the intercom. The Valiant shook violently as it hit a patch of spatial turbulence. Outside, the fabric of space seemed to twist and fold on itself, a phenomenon not entirely understood even by the most advanced theories of quantum mechanics. "Report!" Mallory demanded, stabilizing herself against the navigation console. "We've hit a gravitic wave, Captain. It's off the charts," reported Lieutenant Hargrove, his eyes wide as he fought to regain control of the ship's trajectory. Elena rushed to the bridge, her mind racing with the possibilities. "Could this be related to the signal?" she asked, arriving beside Mallory. "It's possible," Mallory replied. "This could be a defensive mechanism or simply a side effect of whatever technology is being used to send the signal." The crew worked feverishly to stabilize the ship and analyze the gravitational anomaly they had encountered. After several tense minutes, the Valiant steadied, sailing clear of the turbulence. Let's get a scan of that wave, Mallory ordered. I want to know what we just passed through. The scan results were baffling. The wave pattern was unlike anything the ship's sensors had recorded before. It was as if space itself was being used as a canvas, painted with forces that defied human understanding. This technology, if you can even call it that, is manipulating space-time itself, Elena theorized, her mind alight with both awe and fear. Mallory nodded, her decision firm. We keep going. Whatever is sending these signals, it's powerful, but we need answers. As the crew resumed their course, the mystery deepened. The path ahead was fraught with unknowns, but the potential to encounter a new civilization, or perhaps a new threat, pushed them onward. Elena returned to her lab, her resolve strengthened. She knew that the key to understanding this phenomenon lay within the data they had and the secrets it still held. Every pattern, every frequency was a piece of a larger story, and she was determined to decipher it. Meanwhile, the Valiant surged forward, its crew ready to face whatever lay at the end of this cosmic trail. The stars outside offered no hints, only the silent backdrop against which the drama of discovery unfolded. As the Valiant pressed forward, the cosmos seemed to thicken around them, the darkness deepening as if the universe itself anticipated their approach to the source of the mysterious signals. Captain Mallory remained vigilant, her experienced eyes scanning every shift in the starlight that bathed her ship in a ghostly glow. The tension on board was palpable, with every crew member alert to the slightest anomaly. Their route was uncharted, the navigation charts lacking the detail needed for such an unknown region of space. This left the crew to rely heavily on real-time data, a method that was both risky and exhilarating. In the science lab, Dr. Elena Voss and her team analyzed the patterns of the gravitational waves they had encountered. "These aren't natural occurrences," she reiterated to her team, pointing to the overlay of data on her screen. "They're like breadcrumbs leading us somewhere, deliberately." Mikhail, ever the skeptic, leaned back against the wall, arms folded. But to what? And why use such an elaborate method to communicate or attract attention? Elena paused, considering his point. Perhaps it's not about communication in the way we understand it. Maybe it's about altering the fabric of space for some other purpose, one we haven't even considered. The ship's AI, an advanced neural network designed for deep space navigation and anomaly detection, suddenly chimed in. "Alert! Proximity warning! Approaching large-scale spatial distortion." On the bridge, Captain Mallory immediately ordered, "All stop. Bring us to a stationary position relative to that distortion. I don't want us blundering into anything until we understand what we're dealing with." The ship obeyed, engines winding down to a silent hum as the crew peered out at the viewing screens. Ahead of them, space appeared to warp, a visible curvature distorting the starlight, creating a shimmering effect that was both beautiful and terrifying. "Options?" Mallory asked, her voice steady despite the unknown. Elena joined her on the bridge, looking at the distortion. "We could send a probe, see if it can pass through safely and send back data. It's a non-invasive way to learn more without risking the ship." Mallory nodded. "Do it. Prepare a probe for immediate launch." The preparations were swift, the crew efficient in their duties. Within minutes, a small, unmanned probe was dispatched, sailing into the distorted field of vision that lay before them. The wait was agonizing. Each second stretched out as the crew watched the probe's progress, its telemetry feeding back to the Valiant's main screens. Then, without warning, the probe's signals flickered and went dead. "A loss of signal," announced the communications officer, his voice tense. "It didn't even make it halfway." Elena's mind raced. The field might be denser than we thought, or possibly it has properties that interfere with electronic signals. Mallory considered their next move. "We'll need to think outside the box. Traditional methods aren't going to work here." Elena suggested, "What about old school? We could use a physical marker, something passive, to see if it can pass through and return. Like the space probes of the 20th century. Mikhail chimed in. "We could modify one of the maintenance drones. Strip it down to basics. Physical instruments only, no electronics." "Get on it," Mallory commanded, turning to her technical team. "And hurry. We don't know how stable that field is or how long before it shifts." As the crew set to work, the implications of their discoveries loomed large. They were on the edge of a breakthrough, teetering between groundbreaking discovery and the potential dangers of the unknown. This spatial distortion was unlike anything recorded in human exploration, a puzzle composed of cosmic forces and mysterious intents. As they prepared their next probe, Elena felt a mixture of fear and excitement. They were pushing the boundaries of human knowledge, stepping into realms that science fiction writers had only dreamed of. The makeshift drone was a stripped-down version of their usual maintenance bots, fitted with basic mechanical tools to interact with the physical environment and a simple method for marking its path. As the crew of the Valiant watched, the drone moved steadily towards the shimmering spatial distortion, a silent sentinel against the vastness of space. Captain Mallory and Dr. Elena Voss monitored the progress from the bridge, each holding their breath as the drone approached the anomaly. Unlike the electronic probe, this drone maintained its signal, its primitive mechanisms unaffected by the strange energies at work. "It's passing through," Elena announced, relief and wonder in her voice. The view screens showed the drone's perspective as it entered the distortion, the visuals warping, then stabilizing into a clear view of what lay beyond. What they saw was breathtaking, a massive, swirling vortex of light and color, at the center of which hovered an enormous structure, geometric and precise, unlike anything naturally occurring. It was clearly artificial, a construct of incredible complexity and scale. "Is that—" Mikhail started to ask, his voice trailing off in awe. "A Dyson sphere or something like it," Elena responded, her voice filled with excitement. "It's an engineered megastructure, designed to harness the power of a star." Mallory's eyes were fixed on the structure. "That might explain the star's manipulated behavior. Someone or something is controlling it." The realization that they were likely not alone in the universe, and that another civilization was capable of such feats, was both exhilarating and daunting. "We need to establish contact," Mallory decided. "Prepare a communication package. Whatever built this should know we're here, and that we're peaceful." Elena nodded, turning to coordinate with her team to put together a message that combined mathematics and visual data to demonstrate their peaceful intentions and scientific curiosity. Meanwhile, the drone continued its exploration, sending back images and data. It was clear that the structure was not currently operational, or at least not in full capacity. Parts of it seemed dormant, and the star it surrounded pulsed irregularly, as if struggling under an unnatural restraint. As the crew worked, a response came, not through their communication systems, but as a new form of interaction. Spatial patterns in the distortion itself, shifting in ways that clearly indicated intelligent control. The patterns were complex, almost musical in their precision and rhythm. "They're communicating," Elena said, her voice a mix of delight and tension. "It's a visual language, we need to decode it." Hours turned into days as both sides worked to bridge the gap between their forms of communication. With each exchange, understanding grew. The builders of the sphere were a species known as the Orinians, who had been navigating the stars long before humans had left their solar system. They explained that the star manipulation was a desperate measure to prevent a catastrophic stellar event triggered by natural cosmic processes, a detail that had escaped the human scientists. The Orinians, however, were in decline, their numbers dwindling from centuries of environmental challenges and stellar disasters. The sphere was their last great endeavor to save their civilization, now falling into disrepair. "We have much to learn from each other," Mallory conveyed in one of their final messages, an offer of assistance and mutual exchange. As the Valiant prepared to depart, now with a mission to return with aid and a delegation of scientists and diplomats, Elena looked back at the Great Sphere, a symbol of what could be achieved when civilizations reached for the stars. The journey back to human space was filled with preparations, both for the return mission and to share the monumental discoveries they had made. In that vast expanse between stars, humanity had not only found a new ally, but had also stepped into a larger universe, filled with possibilities and new horizons to explore.